Good morning to Nanda. Myself Priyanka. I am working as a primary science teacher in Nandan Public School. Today we are going to discussing about the classification of animals. So we are discussing about the classification of animals. Animals can be divided into two groups based on the presence and absence of their backbone. So what is the two groups? Invertebrates and vertebrates. So, invertebrate. What is invertebrate? Animals, they don't have backbone in their bodies. So that means these some kinds of animals, they never be presented any backbone, any bone also in their bodies. For example, like ant, cockroach. Example of invertebrates: ants and cockroach and slugs and some insects also example of a invertebrates, because in all these animals they don't have any backbone in their bodies. Example of a cockroach, basically the invertebrates like cockroach body is divided into three parts. So what is that? No, how do I think this? So basically the invertebrate of cockroach body is divided into three parts. First is the head, second is the thorax, the third one is the abdomen. So basically the head has two pairs of heads and two pairs of antennas. These antennas helps to in like these cockroaches sense of their surroundings. It can be sense that they can feel their surroundings with the help of their antennas. Like thorax. Thorax has a 6 legs. So basically this thorax has covered one covering their one layer of their bodies. So this thorax is attached to the head. So like abdomen and thorax, these two has a three pairs of like 6 legs. So this abdomen has covering some holes like some holes on their bodies. So the abdomen is covering with some holes like covering on their bodies. These holes are called a spiracles. What do we call it? Spiracles. So these spiracles helps to most 50% of the insects has takes breath with help of these spiracles. This is about of the cockroach. Now we are going to discussing about the vertebrates. So animals, they have backbone in their bodies. So these kinds of animals, their presence backbone is presented in their bodies like fish. So vertebrates are divided into basically 5 groups. See, fish has a backbone in their bodies, and like next is reptiles, and then next is amphibians, next birds, and then next to mammals. So now we are going to discussing about the fish. Already we know fish is a aquatic animals. Most of the time their lifespan is living in all time in water only. So different kinds of fishes are living in water. We know that. Basically the fish has a one special body feature in their bodies. What is that? Gills. So the gills are presented in fish's body. Because of this, this helps to takes breathing. The fish are taking breathing with help of their gills. And then next, they are swimming. They are swim in water with help of swim. So this is about of the fish. Now we are going to discussing about the reptiles. Most of the reptiles travel on the ground and travel on the walls. For example, of a like snakes, crocodile, and chameleon also. Most of the reptiles walk cold-blooded animals. Reptiles as a cold-blooded animals. Most of the reptiles body covered with the scales, like some kinds of snakes. For example, of a snake, snake's body with covering with the scales. Sometimes these snakes leave shed their old skin and survive with the new skin. So this character is called a molting. So what do we call it? Molting. Because of the snakes shed their old skin and surviving with the new skin. So this is called a molting. Like some kinds of chameleon. For example, of a chameleon. Chameleon is changing their body colors, blend with the surroundings because of protecting themselves from the enemies with help of changing their body features. So this character is called a camouflage. What do we call this? Camouflage. So this camouflage helps to some kinds of animals protecting themselves from the enemies. This is about of the reptiles. Now we are going to discussing about the amphibians. Amphibians means some kinds of animals living on both sides. Sometimes living on the land, sometimes living in water also. Whenever they are living in water, in that time they takes breathe with help of their skin, moist skin. Whenever they are living on the land, in that time they are taking breath with the help of the lungs. So most of the amphibians takes breath with the help of their moist skin when they are living in water. So for example of a frog, what are the example of amphibians? Frogs and salamander and toads also. So these kinds of animals, they are living in both sides. Sometimes living in water, sometimes living on the land. For example, frog. Frogs we are seeing in our lifetime also. During in our life, frog is living in on the land, living in water also. That's why when this is living on the land, that time this frog is takes breath with the help of their lungs. When it is living in water, in that time takes breath with the help of their moist skin. So this is about of the amphibians. Now we are going to discussing about the birds. Basically the birds has a warm-blooded animals. Their body temperature is too high compared to mammals and the remaining animals. So that's why the birds are living body is too high. Some kinds of birds fly on the sky. Some kinds of birds they cannot fly on the sky because they have a heavy body weight. Most of the birds which is flying on the sky, they have a lightweight bodies. So which they cannot fly on the sky, they have a heavy body weight. Example of a heavy body birds: ostriches, and like penguins. So ostriches and penguins are they cannot fly on the sky because they have a heavy body weight. Now we are going to discussing about the mammals. See, mammals also cold-blooded animals. Cold-blooded animals. So like most of the mammals giving birth to their babies with directly. Most of the mammals giving birth to their babies directly. So their maximum 90% of the mammals has a hairs on their bodies, hair-like structures on their bodies, and they feed their babies to directly. All the mammals they can feed to directly their babies. Like some kinds of mammals, aquatic. So aquatic mammals like dolphins and dolphins and whales. Dolphins and whales, they don't have any hairs on their bodies, but they takes breathe with the help of lungs. Maximum all mammals takes breathe with the help of their lungs, and mammals has a well developed body animals. So whenever the mammals are so well developed body animals. For example of mammals, human beings lion, tigers. So once we have to observe here, so all mammals they have to heads on their bodies, they have to take breath with the help of their lungs, they are giving birth to their babies, and these characters of a about of a mammals. So what are the example of a mammals in our life? Pet animals all are the example of dog, cat, and elephant, and even human beings also example of a mammals. So this is about of the mammals. Okay, thank you.